you for coming to our monthly webinar. And today's topic is about in-person networking. So I think there's a lot to be said for the transitions we all went through with networking for post-COVID versus pre, and now we're all pretty much over that and back to in-person networking, but nothing really compares to having face-to-face with people and clients and getting to know people that way. So thank you to WFG, which is our underwriter, and Jennifer and Glenn for being our speakers today. And I'll let Jennifer go ahead and get to it if you want to share your screen, and we can ask questions at the end.
Great, thank you. I am sharing my screen. Can everybody see it okay? Perfect. All right. Thank you, Lissa. All right. Well, thanks everyone for coming. Yes, we are talking about the art of in-person networking in Zoom. So it's like we got to reach the masses some way, right? So I'm actually in Florida. So thank you for having some patience with some reorganization. We recently got hit with a hurricane, as many of you know, and a few other states. Unfortunately, just the mass size of this one was just incredible. Thinking good thoughts for everybody that was affected. But so let's dive in today. And I'm just going to ask you this, is that if you could put yourself on mute for now, I definitely welcome questions. But what we're going to do at the end is we're going to have definitely some time and some minutes at the end to bring up those questions. If you're absolutely dying to ask something, go ahead and ask it. You're not going to be penalized, trust me. But as we go, there'll definitely be time at the end, and it'll just help with any sort of background noise. But I really like to see everybody and everybody's faces, so I think that really helps as well. So just a little bit about me. If you weren't on any of the other classes before, my name is Jennifer McAlpine. I'm a marketing technology director. I work as a part of WFG, which is the underwriter Williston Financial Group. And I'm in the kind of a subdivision, agency division, just make it a little bit harder, for you to understand. But ultimately, it's an agency division of WFG. It's called MyHome. And we do things like this, and we work with title agents to help them grow their business as well. But I've been here for about 2.5 years. I have over 18 years of marketing experience. I have headed strategy for large and small corporations. I have a proven history of traditional, non-traditional, kind of out of the box thinking as well for marketing. And then before this position, I was actually the head of marketing for Compass Real Estate out of the Northern California division. I was also the head of their marketing operations for that division as well. That encompassed about 3,500 agents, and then about 50 plus employees. And I was there for a little over 3 years, almost 4. And how I got into real estate was actually working for a boutique brokerage in Silicon Valley. I have been in Florida since 2019, hit it right before the curve of COVID, right? But originally from Northern California. And I started working for this company called Alon Pinnell. They were a luxury boutique brokerage. It was wonderful, great way to get into real estate. And their philosophy was really understanding the customer, but also saying, okay, I want to give you a luxury experience, even if you're not necessarily buying luxury homes, which really resonated with me. Before that, I worked for Pebble Beach Company. If you like golf, follow golf, you probably recognize the name. I headed their e-commerce division for about 5 years and spent the rest of my time in e-commerce before real estate. So enough about me. Let's dive into some of this class, and we're going to go over, I'm a big person of quotes. I love inspiration. I love motivation, right? Who does not really need that? Like we all need it along the way. So I like this quote. It really kind of resonated with me. And it says, you can make more friends in 2 months by becoming interested in other people than you can in 2 years by trying to get other people interested in you, right? This kind of plays into what I'm going to be talking about. This is by Dale Carnegie, and he's known for his influential books on interpersonal skills and building relationships, which is, of course, the real estate business. So let's take a look at kind of what I'm going to be going over today. And it really breaks down to building lasting relationships to grow business. So I'm going to talk a little bit about active listening, empathy, because that goes into networking, right? Nonverbal communication into networking, and ultimately knowing why people should hire you and how to actively communicate that and effectively communicate it. handling objections and difficult questions, which that's always going to happen, right? Without a doubt. And then where, like meeting clients, where to kind of do that at and get the most effectiveness from it. So let's talk a little bit about active listening and empathy. What are some of those kind of fundamentals? I think that, if you've been out and about networking and you kind of understand a lot of this, but even when we had COVID, things kind of changed, right? And we kind of regressed into our offices at home and things like that. And I feel almost like that some of these skills became stagnant for a sort of time, even if like you'd been doing it for a long period of time. So I like to go through this and kind of remind us how this is. And if you're new to it and it just is not your strong point, this is a great opportunity to learn a little bit more about it. So one is fully concentrating, listening with all senses, and being distraction free. So what does that mean? It means really, okay, we've all been there, right? Okay, if you really want to concentrate on someone, you're not going to have this in your hand, right? Your phone. You're not going to be on it looking like this, and you're going to be giving them your attention. You're going to be talking with them back and forth. Now, if you want to send the message that you're not interested in what that person has to say, I would bring out the phone and look at it. You're looking for subtleties. But ultimately, we want to actively listen, and that means giving our entire focus to them, putting aside distracting thoughts. So it's not thinking about, okay, what am I going to do next? Or thinking about maybe what's going on in my life or the next deal or something like that. Literally paying attention to that person wholeheartedly. Avoid preparing for your reply while speaking is still talking, like letting them speak through their thought process. Show your attentiveness through body language, not occasionally, maintain eye contact, and lean slightly forward. These things are all noticeable by the person that you're with, or even if you're up in front of an audience as well. It's really focusing in on that speaker by your body motion, and then also you as a person and actually actively listening. So a few techniques on this is reflective listening, mirroring back what the speaker is saying, but in your own words, right? So even if you're having a one-on-one conversation and it's possibly a new client, really letting them know that you understand, maybe it's a problem, it's a frustration, something like that, rather than immediately going into like, oh, this is what I've recently done. Because that little bit of reflective listening goes an extremely long way. Like I said, mirroring back what the speaker is saying, but in your own words. Oh, I understand, like this. Yes. Asking clarifying questions, like after reflecting, ask questions to clarify and delve deeper into the client's concerns. It could be something as simple as, what specific safety features are you looking for in a home? Something like that. This really shows them that you're interested in what they have to say and you have stake in what they have to say, and that they are being understood as a client. And this, like I said, goes a very long way, not only in that particular conversation, but they remember it, taking it away from them. And that sort of technique, as it's being done again and again in those interactions, they remember that, and that's something that people want to share as well. Of course, empathy, and then understanding your client's needs, right? Putting yourself in your client's shoes and understanding their emotions and perspective. It's so easy to get caught up in just kind of thinking about everything that you have to do. And trust me, it's like I have a long, like 10-point list that I got going in my head every single day, right? But sometimes I have to step away from that and be able to say, okay, I'm focusing in on this person and their needs and what I can do for them, because I'm ultimately going to be that problem solver for them. That emotional intelligence skill is really crucial for real estate agents because it helps them build deeper and more meaningful relationships, because this is kind of like the long-term relationship that we're looking for. We want to get not only them as a client, but we want to get their friends and their family and everybody else as well. So what does that look like of kind of the concept of empathy in action? So really fostering a connection that goes just beyond that business transaction. Like I said, we're looking for that long-term relationship because that's ultimately going to create not only the base for business, but impact our growth again and again and again. So, some of this would be examples, couples looking to downsize after their children have moved out. I have like, literally a child is, I don't even want to say child, somebody that turned 20 years old, a young adult now, right? And it's like you start thinking about these things and your perspectives change a little bit. And it's a point of worry, right? What am I going to be doing in the next 5 years? This is an opportunity because guess what? We have friends, this kind of consideration of life changes and we all talk. What are you doing? What are you doing? And this can be, well, I'm working with this real estate agent. They're telling me this is a great person. I really like them. These conversations happen each and every day. An effective agent would recognize these emotions and respond empathetically and address really what can be created in a new home based on, your listening and understanding and having some of those skills applied. So I like to kind of connect that empathy and that skill along that business connection as well. So really truly understanding your client's problems and pain points. So breaking that down is ultimately answering like, what is the biggest pain point you can help them solve, right? This is a huge component. How do you help them get to their desired state? So if they're saying, if it's that person that's, hey, I'm thinking about what I want to do in my next stage here. Maybe it's in a year, maybe it's in 6 months, maybe it's in 5 years. But what does that look like? And how do you help them get to that desired state? Presenting them with options, talking through their problems. And guess what? Now, when you understand that person's problems and needs, you can take that same concept and address it to other people with the same problems and pain points as well. And also understanding, okay, why can't they achieve this on their own? Why can't they achieve that state on their own? So if you can understand where you can insert yourself in and say, hey, I can do XYZ for you, I'm able to put this together and this is why you need me. That's building that empathy and putting that business connection into it as well. And this can all happen in networking and conversations, right? All these conversations come up and it definitely happens on a regular basis. So in those situations, also understanding nonverbal communication is really crucial as well. So like I said, sometimes, within those COVID days, and it's like we forget a certain things, and I'm like, okay, maybe I shouldn't have done that, right? So thinking about that, it's like, okay, what are those nonverbal clues? So they include a range of behaviors and signs we really transmit without even realizing it sometimes. And there's things like, like maybe some facial expressions. So an example of this would be I was with my daughter and we were going to this one school function and we were looking at this new program, right? And I'm like, wow, you really did not like that program because I was looking at what was going on with her face. She said, no, actually, I liked it. Like, why do you say that? And I was like, your face looked like you were not happy. So kind of being aware of that, even when we're out and about, when we're talking to people and things like that, and I told her she has an RBF, right? So this is something that happens. And a lot of times we're not aware of that. But when we are aware of that, we can make changes to be like, okay, I know I need to smile sometimes. I know I need to talk a little bit more, maybe change my gestures or my posture a little bit so it's not like slouched and leaning forward. Or if I'm in a conversation, it's like, standing up a little bit more, having some other friendly, welcoming facial expressions as well. This helps for all in-person interaction because once you're smiling, it's an opportunity. People feel less guarded and have more of an opportunity, one, to either come up to you or have conversations that are more open to where you can connect that empathy and that business for yourself as well. The use of eye contact and eye usage, of course, looking people in the eye, and then, or the lack thereof. This is something that to be aware of. It is always helpful to look someone in the eye because it helps with letting them know that you're trustworthy. And this is something we definitely want to convey. So a few things here. So why is this important? So it reinforces or contradicts what is verbal. So discussion is on like if you're having maybe a discussion on security features with either a current client or a potential client, and maybe it's like you don't have steady eye contact, and it's not even something that you're meaning to do, but this could convey like, if you're trustworthy or confident or not trustworthy and confident, right? And discussion maybe on security features of a home, avoiding contact, the perception maybe is skepticism, regardless of your verbal information being given. You could be saying one thing, but your body language could be saying another. So this really impacts all conversations. There was, I am on LinkedIn a lot, and I follow a few people, and this woman that I follow was actually talking about how she always gets doors opened for her. And her husband was like, it's because you're smiling all the time. And everybody wants to open the door for you when you go into a business or something like that. And she's like, no, that's not true. Right. So she did this study and she stopped consciously smiling. The doors stopped opening up for her. So she said, this is reflective of what I'm doing, and it makes a huge difference. She started smiling again, and the doors, like literal doors, started opening up for her. So this really plays into effect even from a conversational, when you're meeting new people, smiling, those facial interactions, that those other things that you're putting out, really people do pick up on quite a bit. And just as a note to those impacts of body language, we all want just friendly reminders of the positive open gestures, nodding affirmatively, mirroring your client's gestures, and then negative, crossing your arms, which sometimes it's hard because, hey, that's what's comfortable, right? But just staying in that mindset of like making sure you're not putting off that negative feedback as well. So, and then I always like to have a little reminder of tone of voice. A calm and confident tone can reassure clients, making them feel secure in the dealings. This is true when people are having those emotional moments, right? Or they're having a lot of concern. And there's a lot of things going on in the market right now where they might be voicing this. They're like, maybe you're at a community event, they start talking about this and voicing their concern, but really staying in that calm mode really helps reassure them that you are that person that's going to be there for them, and that person that they can be, confident in, that they're going to be able to handle this situation for them. That can be really like one of the biggest purchases of their lives. So conversely, a high-pitched, fast-paced tone might convey anxiety or pressure as well. So this all feeds into too, as we're talking about, connection, we're talking about empathy, we're talking about how our physical features interact with other people, all those nonverbal interactions. It really is taking all that and understanding a few things about when going back to, okay, what are those pain points, right? How do you connect with people? And ultimately, it's kind of like the concept of what's your elevator pitch? But that elevator pitch is really answering the question of why should people hire you? And it's done in a way that is just effective. It's to the point and clear, right? And it's not long drawn out process as we're like, wait a minute, what just happened? And what did you just say? Because I have no clue. So a few ways to break this down is in kind of 4 points. So one, how do you create a solution or change for your prospective client? How do you teleport them from their problem to seeing you as the solution? And how do you position yourself in a way that attracts your ideal client? And how are you unique from your competitors in the market? What makes you different? The fourth question on there was the number one question I would always get asked when I was at Compass by real estate agents. How do I make myself stand out? How do I differentiate myself? Well, it actually comes from the three questions before it. How do you create solutions and change for your prospective client? And that comes from understanding your pain points of your clients and your potential clients. And then also, how do you let them know that take them from their problem to seeing you as the solution? So what is it that you can offer them that's going to say, hey, I can do this for you. I can provide that solution for you. And then how do you position yourself in a way that attracts your ideal client? So sometimes it's like the tone of voice, it's the connection, things like that. What's your expertise? And it, kind of boils down to a sentence that could say, I am a blank expert who helps or empowers blank clients, prospective buyers, sellers to achieve the results of my signature service or product, or, real estate, whatever that is, that's your specialty. So breaking that down even further is, if I were to say, okay, if I were to ask you, what 3 to 5 things are you just really good at? Because I think it's really easy to see in other people, I'm like, oh gosh, you're really good at that, right? You're really good at this. But when it comes to ourselves, I'm like, okay, well, what really does make me different, right? And when breaking that down, even if it's 2 things, right? What are things that I know I do really well? It does not even have to be real estate related. Maybe just a massive project manager. Like if you have multi kids and you're like, hey, I'm managing everything all the time and I'm able to organize, that's project management skills, right? How does that translate into what you're doing into real estate? Is it something that you have an expertise in this particular niche area? Maybe it's design. Maybe it's maybe you are part-time contractor, something like, it's just whatever it is. Maybe you have somebody that you really just understand that customer, you're able to go above and beyond, and that you have a special skill in patience and understanding, right? You have an elevated luxury type of customer service set. So that could be a specialty as well. And what that does is, based on your client's needs and their pain points, how does that match? So how does that skill set match, and how do you solve their problems based on matching with that particular skill set that you have, or the thing that you're really good at? And then how does that, empower them to achieve what they want to do? So if they want to buy or sell a house, how does that connect? If they're looking to sell, how do those skills impact them to solve their problems and ultimately achieve that sell that they want to do? So those are the ways that you would connect that and really let people know why they should hire you. Whenever there's an opportunity, where you're at a networking event, whether you're at your kid's softball game, whether, like, all these things, because when these questions can be answered by you in advance, these conversations come so much easier, so much quicker, and it comes across to that potential client very clear, and you're able to communicate in a clear, concise, and confident way. And people really pick up on this. So with that, I always like to put into, like, a way of handling objections and difficult questions, because guaranteed you will get them, right? Guaranteed you will get them. And a lot of times it's being proactive. And this goes with preparation and understanding. So even if you're at that event, that softball, that baseball game, that football game, whatever the case may be, or if you're at like the farmer's market, you have a booth or something like that, right? Understanding those pain points will also pay off in this area as well. By understanding your client in advance, you can actually answer those questions in advance, saying, I know that this is an issue right now, and this is my way that we're working through it right now. How do you feel about that? How does that affect you? And asking those questions to them, so they're able to have a non-yes or no answer, right? So they're able to converse with you and give you even more feedback, and you dive deeper and have a deeper conversation that they appreciate. So a few different things too is preparation, understanding. If you're in a situation with a listing or anything like that, price, contract terms, uncertainties about the market, those pretty much come up on a regular basis, right? And so navigation of those strategies, as I mentioned, really acknowledging those clients' concerns is a huge part about that, no matter where you're at, whether you're in a showing or if it's like you're out and about. And then, of course, remaining professional under pressure and taking a brief moment, even before responding. What I like to do too is I've seen this work really well is slowing your speech just slightly, but not in a condescending manner and collecting your thoughts. It's kind of like that prevention of reactive responses, right? Because sometimes our reaction response is like we're in the car, we want to lay on the horn, right? That person just cut us off. But maybe I even tell myself this is not the best reaction all the time, right? Especially if you're in an area where there's a lot of road rage. So maybe that's not always the best response. So maintaining that positive tone, even when discussions become tense, this always lets you be that person that is the collective, the person that you know they can depend on, and the calm and steady voice. And it can also help de-escalate the situation and keep that interaction constructive. So a few different things on just connecting with clients, right? As we talked about, addressing their concerns is a huge part of it, reinforcing your role as an advocate and ensuring your customer feels supported and confident in that process. And just having those little components of thoughtfulness go a long way. And like I said, if you think about it this way, whenever you even have a really positive conversation, a positive interaction, is that how do you want your potential clients to walk away feeling? What is that emotional connection that you want them to have with you? Because a lot of recognition and remembering goes along within what we call brand recognition is that emotional connection. So how do you want them to feel after every interaction with you? And it's not every transaction, it's every interaction. Because if it's a feeling of contentment, it's a feeling of like, okay, I feel just happy with this person, right? This is a huge component because if it's anything positive, they're going to want to be around you, have more interaction, and be able to tell their friends and family about it as well. This is actually one of the base areas of just even like luxury customer service. And I have a luxury series that I do too, but I always let people know these little components are all free, can be done at any time, and will truly set you apart and ahead of your competition each and every time. So with that, okay, so connecting with clients, we've talked about when we're talking with them, how to talk with them, those nonverbal cues, all these fun things that kind of lead up to connecting with clients and actually happen when we are chatting with clients or potential clients, right? The biggest thing that I could say is meet them where they are at. So this actually, once again, goes back to knowing our client is where are the areas that they are going to be at? If we think about that, if it's like, okay, if I'm working in a neighborhood or a region that is filled with families, where do they go? What do they do? And what is important to them? And ways to connect with them would be, out in the community would be maybe that farmer's market, would be the community event at schools, would be different events that are putting on. I live in Florida, I live in St. Petersburg, and there's always some sort of event going on, right? You do have the opportunity to maybe rent a booth. You do have the opportunity even just to start walking around and interacting. There's also different like mixers and things like that, but also thinking about, okay, if I can get some sort of demographic background knowledge on that group, because I want to make sure that matches with my ideal clientele. Because, honestly, time is a commodity, just like a dollar. So making sure that time and energy is spent effectively is number one. And then communicate with their clients directly, ask questions. Remember, if you're smiling, the doors will physically open, right? And a lot of the time too, just, asking questions of people are a really good thing because one, it shows engagement with the people that you're trying to connect with. And if it's a way that people are like, oh, why is this person asking so many questions? I literally tell people I ask a lot of questions. These are the things I say. I ask a lot of questions. I just really want to understand where you're coming from, and I'm kind of thinking of how I can help. And you can literally see on their face, like the stress kind of go away. And like, because in certain situations, like, why are you asking so many questions? Like, what's going on here? And they're like, oh, I get it. Okay. Oh, that's really nice. And like, you can see the expression change on their face. So also this component of knowing your client literally never ends. So once you are able to connect with them, having emails, having other events that maybe you put on, having other opportunities for connection within the community is something that you'll want to stay engaged with, because I think it's, I'm going to generalize the statistic here, which is something I don't like to do, but ultimately it's around 75% of the population would like to use the real estate agent that they had before, but generally don't, because that person's not staying in touch with them, right? They're not staying ahead of the game. They're not staying like, say, hey, this is what's going on. Hey, happy birthday, even just simple little things. I know one particular real estate agent, she has different things that she does throughout the year, every year for her clients. And one of those things is, for example, is during Super Bowl. She does these Super Bowl baskets because she knows all her top customers. She knows all the people that will be what I call the mayor and the influencers, right? All the people that will recommend her and the people that kind of just know everyone, right? So what she does is she puts together these fun Super Bowl baskets. I think one year she did like a 6-pack of beer, and then she did like different things to go in the basket based on the team and things like that. And she goes and physically drops them off to people's homes. And now she has a few people helping her, but ultimately it also gives that connection with people, that physical connection, saying, hey, I care about you. This is something fun. And it's reflective of her personality and something that usually that they care about as well. And she has people asking her in advance every year, are you going to be dropping off those Super Bowl baskets? So that's a great opportunity. Another thing to do is kind of thinking outside the box, is when really breaking down the understanding of your clients' needs, the struggles that they're having currently, is to think about, okay, if all of your clients, if you could create a level of stickiness, once you convert them, what would that look like? And if you're willing to put in a little bit of dollars, a little bit of effort, a little bit of connection, what would that look like? So what I mean by this is another agent that I know, she actually created, hey, if you work with me, I created a network of different people that you usually need in your life. And it's like a Facebook group, something like that. And it could be like contractors, it could be cleaners, it could be, if you think of like literally anything that happens in your life, it could be, okay, the masseuse, that sort of thing, or anything that certain doctors or whatever, like anything that happens within life, right? They have a little group, and everybody within that group, you can use these particular vendors. Either maybe you get a discount, or you're getting an elevated level of service that matches that particular real estate agent. What she also does is she actually built a shed and put together all types of tools within that shed, because she knows that she heard from her clients that they're like, I have to go rent tools. Gets really expensive. And she has a quote unquote tool shed that she comes and lets all of her clients use. They just check out tools and bring them back. And they all know that as a past client that you can use this, right? Then she started taking it a step further and started and bought a couple of moving trucks, right? Bought a couple of moving trucks, put her information on it. And then she went a little step further and started renting out ad space on there as well. So she's also making passive income. But every one of her clients at some point needs moving help, right? So if this is something that she could do, so kind of thinking of it that way, creating stickiness, being of value to your clients, and continually understanding there's pain points, and then finding that solution for them, so you are an integral part of that equation for a lifetime. So, kind of in conclusion, kind of taking all those things together is, integrating those skills and things that we talked about on daily interactions. I always like to put it on a thing of interaction, not transaction, because that is really where you get that emotional connection, that feeling of empathy and connecting it on a business level. And then, meeting with new clients, if you're conducting property showings or negotiating a deal, remembering the power of that effective communication, adapting these techniques to suit different clients, right? Sometimes that one person needs a little bit more of feeling safe. The other person just needs like, hey, I want you to take the reins and just fill me in once a week, right? And with that, it's like understanding those situations and always aiming for clarity, empathy, and professionalism. And above all, letting yourself stand out. I think this is sometimes really hard for people or really easy for people, right? But knowing what you are good at and how to communicate it will take your business to another level. And ultimately remembering there is literally no one else like you, and that is your key differentiator and leaning into that 100%. So hopefully you've gotten some pointers here that help out. This is a QR code. If you want to scan it, it takes you to my little landing page. It tells you a little bit more about me, but also there I have the links to my LinkedIn and YouTube. Getting my YouTube going, but LinkedIn, I'm very active and I do tips and posts 2 to 3 times a week. I have a little newsletter on there and it gives you different tips and tricks for your businesses as well, and marketing and all the things, right? So if you'd like to follow me there, I definitely welcome you. And if there's any questions, I'd love to answer them. Or not.
I don't necessarily see like any questions, but I just want to add, because like networking for me really came like after I opened a business, it was not in sales or anything. It's like I opened the title and was like, okay, now what do I do? So in the beginning, I did take a few like classes in the sales realm that talked about similar to what you were saying with like, they called it a pain funnel. It's kind of like, and the only way you really get to understand what your client needs, which they're all going to be maybe similar, but also very different in what they value as most important and things like that. And you really just do that by listening and asking questions. And the more you can engage like that was really how I could understand what people wanted. And one of the books that I'll share with you guys that I really enjoyed, and I think I think Larry was on here earlier, but I don't know if he still is, but it was The Go Giver. And it's a really short book. I don't remember I have to look up who writes it, but he goes through these principles of how you can really build that relationship with your clients by giving or finding out what they want, right? And sort of giving more value than you receive in payment. And that concept you can kind of take in its simplest form throughout every meeting you have with a client. Or an event is one thing, right? You go to networking events, you meet people, but you don't really get to that next level until you do the one-to-one and then really understand what they want. So I feel like network is in 2 parts. You have to like go out there, do the smiling and have people open the door for you, and that thought that Jennifer was talking about. But then beyond that is the one-to-ones, which I think a lot of people don't, and not that they forget, but that's the hard part, right? You can go to an event, have a great time, get a bunch of business cards, and then the follow-up and the like making the appointment and setting it and keeping it is where I think it falls off. So I appreciate all of the information you gave us, Jennifer. Everybody, thanks for coming. And if it's stuff you already kind of knew, it's good to kind of have a refresher to like spend the time to hear it again. So
Yeah, I got a
Right.
question, Jennifer.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of the communication skills you're talking about, I'm guessing is like, it sounds like a lot of the neuro-linguistic programming, that some of the courses that I've taken. But I wanted to focus in on the elevator pitch. I mean, I struggle with that. I mean, there's certain things I'm very good at, certain things I'm not. And how long do you think that is that 30 seconds? Is it a minute? What do you really want to focus there on?
I would say around a minute. And if And that usually is kind of just answering those basic questions. People want to know what you do, how you do it, and how they get in touch with you, right? And if there's something that you can add in there, like this is like your one call out specialty, I would add that in there. I actually have, Emily, if you want, I'll send you, I have a branding worksheet that
Okay.
goes through kind of all the questions that I went through here, which really helps you bring out that information and kind of puts it together. So I'll send that to you so you can send it out to everyone.
Yeah, that sounds like an awesome tool. The other thing I wanted to ask you about was LinkedIn, because of all my social media platforms, I've kind of woefully neglected that one.
Yeah.
Do you get customer interaction there? I mean, is it something I need to focus on?
My recommendation is yes. And this is what I'll tell you. I've been on LinkedIn for a long time and I've really been honing into it. So I'm always trying to take things further on my end as well. So I have a LinkedIn course that's for, kind of LinkedIn networking and ads and things like that. But I recently took a couple of master classes. I'm taking another one right now because if you want to look at it for lead generation, it is an amazing source. And it's something that I'm working on right now to kind of updating the class that I have, because if you think about it this way, LinkedIn, the average income is $75,000. That's where it starts. And a lot of people that, you're dealing with, they have to work, right? They normally have a job. They're either head of a company or something like that. Not only can you, by posting and interacting with people, it's kind of a way to network with your ideal clientele. But also, even if you're posting and talking, and it's a way to kind of take that elevator pitch, put it out there. And then I get people like, ever since I've been changing the way that I do things on LinkedIn, I literally get people direct message me on a continual basis. So these are like, I'm not even trying to generate leads at this point. I'm just trying to build my network. And by building my network, people are identifying with my posts, with the way that I'm going about posting things in my own voice. And it's really been very interesting. And the more and more that I see, it is a heavy opportunity for lead generation with your ideal client. So I think it's something definitely to be on.
Okay, thanks. Can you post videos on there? Short
You
videos?
can. Yeah, you can post videos as well. Yep. Mm-hmm.
All right, thanks.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
So
thank you,
I,
Jennifer. I guess.
I had something to share real
Yeah, go ahead.
quick.
Yeah.
So I used to go out to networking events, and because I love networking in person, I used to just go and try and give out as many cards as I could. And I wound up hearing somebody speak, and they actually were very impactful. And they said, really what you want to do is connect with a couple of people. And the
Mhm.
3 questions I always ask people is, who are you? What do you do? And how can I help you?
That's
Because
good.
when we're in a business like this, even if you're a real estate agent, you're still self-employed. So who we are is part of what we do. So they kind of go together.
Mhm.
And then the third part of it is, how can I help you? Who can I introduce you to? Are there anybody that I can, look out for? Can I introduce you to an attorney? Things like that tend to be very helpful when you're actually networking in person with people.
Yeah, no, it's a great point. I think of being value can be in multiple ways, because that is kind of like that long-term concept that I was talking about, right? How can you be their partner? How can you be somebody that they can look to for other things within the real estate realm, right? And having that level of stickiness on a long-term basis.
And then you can even actually take that forward with your clients. Like if you have a client that's self-employed, ask them like, hey, tell me a little bit about your business. This way,
Mhm.
maybe you can help them. And then next thing you know, they're referring you out to other people because you took a bit of a different approach.
Yep, that's a great idea. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right, guys. Well, I guess we'll wrap it up here, but I'll post the recording, and Jennifer, you want to send me that branding sheet? I can send it to everyone as like a PDF so you can use on your own. But everybody have a great day. And thank you again.
Thank you. Take
Bye.
care.
Thanks.
Bye.